This meeting is being recorded.
We should probably go around and say hello to everybody and remind everybody what our names are. I'm Donna. I'm the principal here at Marcy Open School. School for the Arts. I'm sorry. I still do it. And I'll popcorn to Anissa.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Anissa, and I work as associate educator bilingual. And yeah, hello again.
Go Berkeley. Go Berkeley. Go Berkeley.
Hello, everyone. I'm Berkeley, a third grade teacher at Marcy. I can popcorn to Claire.
Hello, friends. My name is Claire. I use she, her pronouns, and I have a first grader at Marcy and two that are not yet old enough to be in Marcy. And I will transfer over to Kate.
Hi, Kate, she, her. I have a kindergartner in Stacy's class and a third grader in Katie P's class. Sonia, how about you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Sonia. I have a kindergartner, Foxy, in Joy's class, but he learns from home. And I will popcorn to Emmy.
Hey all, I'm Emmy, she, her, and my daughter Leora is in Leah's class. And I will popcorn to Zam Zam.
Hi, my name is Zamzam Kadir. I have three girls in Mercy, fifth grader, third grader, and the kindergarten.
Is Zamzam pick either Sydney or Rosemary? Who do you want to have introduce themselves next? I'll pick for you. Rosemary.
Hey, I'm Rosemary, and I'm the community ed coordinator, the after-school coordinator at Marcy. And I will pick Sydney.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sydney. I'm family and community liaison for Marcy. It's everybody, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, hi. I'm Laura.
Oh, I'm sorry, Laura.
That's okay. And my son Leo is in kindergarten in Stacy's class.
Well, now we can get started. Tonight's meeting just I have about 6 agenda items. Trinity is out ill, and so I don't do little slideshows. I just don't. I like to talk to you, so please feel free to take notes if you'd like to. I tend to summarize a little bit more, but I'm open for any questions about what we're about to talk about. So the first topic is our COVID, which I'm calling kind of a COVID tick up. It has really impacted our school greatly. We've had 10 to 12 staff members out every single day. And there are very few subs available. So we take our staff members who are not in the classroom and we make them be our subs. And so they're gracious people, so we haven't had any big meltdowns. But it also means that Trinity and I take turns doing lunch, recess, besides the regular stuff that we do every day. So it feels a little bit tense as we start each day in school to make sure that, Trinity and I both wake up and look at our phones to see who we might have to replace. And I think that it's happening all over the place. Everybody tells me it is. Hi, Susanna. You better wave at people. There's Susanna, our other bilingual program assistant. But the COVID thing is very real right now. Once we were allowed to take our masks off, I saw a huge uptick in staff becoming sick. And our district hasn't changed its rules about COVID. You can either go the CDC way or the MDH way. And so many people have to be out for 10 days. So kids are impacted in so many different ways by having substitute teachers, by having multiple substitute teachers and by their own teachers, because there's such a connection with our kids and their teachers. And I think that's just important to know that we're doing the best we can, but there are lots of families who are upset with they're upset with us because we're the messenger of the district policy about how long their child might have to stay home if they're exposed. And it is a huge frustration to all of us that there are kids in our building who've missed 21 days of school because they've been exposed and they've never had COVID themselves. That's like the most that I know about personally. But there has been a tick up, and I'd say about a third of the kids wear masks all the time, and at least half the staff. So it's a choice that impacts everybody, but it's something that we're considering every day. So just so you know, that you're right, the COVID situation is still happening out there. Even though the weather's nicer and we can be outside, we still are impacted by that. And that makes this year's learning year even more choppy than it has been for other reasons. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Am I done?
My only question is, I imagine each school can't set their own mask policies, correct?
Correct.
Like Marcy couldn't say we're requiring them.
No. In fact, it's kind of funny, Emmy. A dad called me up and he was so upset because unbeknownst to me, we have a teacher who just tells her kids they're all going to wear their masks in her class. And there hasn't been a problem with that. But then one day, we literally ran out of substitutes. So we divided a class among the other 3 teachers. And so this man's son went to that class and was told to wear a mask. And he knew the rules, the child. And he's like, I don't have to. It's my right not to wear a mask. Which was true, but the teacher said, well, guess what? In my class, we all wear them. So he wore the mask, and then the dad called me to be concerned about his son's right to not wear the mask. So I had to explain the whole thing to him, but I also didn't realize that that was happening in that particular classroom. So then I talked to the teacher about the fact that we have to comply with the rules that are set in front of us. Even I'm sure this makes her extremely nervous. I don't know people's personal stuff, but when people are autoimmune or immune compromised, however you say that, thank you. It's a personal issue, and I just kind of let things play out. And in that classroom, that teacher has a strong community. So those kids would probably, walk across coals for her if she said, you know what, kids, we need to do this today, because they love her so much. So there haven't been any complaints from the actual students that are in her room or families. But yeah, it's very, it continues to present situations that we have to stop, think about it, because it's never happened to us before, and then move forward. So that's COVID. Now I'm going to switch to our school improvement goals. This is usually a dry section, even if there is a PowerPoint that goes with it. But I'm going to report out that through the year, we've been required and expected to assess children using a test called the FAST test, and continually try to demonstrate to our district that we're making growth. So the rational side of me says, give me a break. This is a very challenging year. Do we really need to add the stress of some kind of standardized situation on the kids? But we had to. So, and the FAST test is not like the MCAs. It's shorter and a little more concise, and you're able to see growth throughout the year, which I think is important for our teachers to know where their kids are, how are the kids really doing? How do you know they're doing well? It's
Donna,
yes, ma'am.
Can you explain what the FAST test is for anybody who's unfamiliar with kind of what it is or what subjects it looks at?
Well, sure. The FAST test looks at your child's reading ability and math ability, basically. And it will give the teacher an idea of how they're progressing and where they're at individually. So the reason I like it, there's a lot of debates about standardized testing. I don't like standardized testing myself for a variety of reasons, but I really don't like it when it takes a long, long time for little kids, which is ridiculous. This is pretty quick. The teachers can say, this is what we do. This is our assessment. It's, you know, it's a half hour to an hour, and the class can be done with it and they move on. And so the feedback that comes back gives the teachers an opportunity to see where they might need to teach one area in a more structured way, or there are some kids missing a concept. So it's a standardized test that happens in our district that has been used for a variety of reasons, but right now, and it's because of the pandemic, they wanted to have something that was unified, that we could show that kids were making progress. The goofy thing is when we have so many stops and starts and kids doing school from home and maybe not having the support that they're used to, we didn't expect huge growth, but we didn't do as badly this time from winter to, well, let me think. Here, I have my notes. So our SIP goals are around how the kids do in math and literacy. So we take that FAST test, which is kind of the same test 3 times to see how we're doing. Our winter data showed that we went down a little in reading as a school. As a school, we dropped a little bit. And when I say a little bit, it could be about 1% down from what we are as a group. Now, every family will get their individualized child's report, but we think that that dip was due to the test being given right after we returned from the strike. So there's deadlines for these things. There's no area that we were given any dispensation for. So we had to do this at a time that was really not the best. And so that's why we're waiting now to hear for the results from the spring assessment to see if that goes back up. In math, we actually did better. And our SIP goals, our school improvement goals, I was surprised about the math one, but I'm really happy about it, that the kids actually are grasping the concepts they need to grasp throughout breaks in the schedules. So I feel like they went up 2 percentage points as a school, and our school improvement goals that we created last year really we decided we were to hone them down a little. And so we're looking at kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade learners. We're looking at them specifically to watch how they grow through this process. And then as we keep going, not that we're not paying attention to our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, of course we are, but we kind of made the focus be on those grades so that we could literally like hyper focus on kids and their growth through this time. We write goals. You know, I used to be a special ed teacher before, and you can write goals that make no sense and maybe can look good for your school, but they won't make any sense for the students learning, or you can kind of work with the truth and try to make gains the way you can make them, knowing your population. Well, so we set our goals that are in our school improvement plan with the idea in mind that we couldn't know what this year would bring as far as how much in-school learning they'd have, how much school out of school. And so given that tumultuous situation, we actually fine-tuned it down to the lower grades so that we could be able to watch their growth as they go through Marcy. So I want to tell you about the SIP goals, but I got to change my little screen right here. Does anybody have any questions about that yet? I mean, school is still school. We still use some forms of assessment for every single child to determine how they have grown, or if they need more support, or if they haven't grown, so that there's a collegial conversation or a community conversation with parents and children and teachers to talk about what's happening. students with IEPs have the opportunity, I guess I call it, to be able to have an IEP team meeting where all their needs are discussed and they have very specific goals. That's why it's kind of called that, but individual education plan. But everybody in our school, there's nobody who we miss. There's nobody who isn't given the opportunity to show what they know and have those conversations. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And
we have a question, Donna.
Okay, what is it?
Zam, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
FAFSA test, you talk about it. Like the child that takes the test, the reading scores, if becoming low or if becoming high, what do you do with that? I want to know.
Sure.
How you gonna help them when they got the score is low or the score is high? How you gonna fix it that?
Okay, Zam, thank you for that question. I'm not going to really put you on the spot, but Berkeley, do you want to talk from a teacher's perspective? What happens when you receive those test scores back from the company that makes all the tests?
Yeah, for sure. I can talk about that a little bit. And I also will just kind of say the FAST test compared to other standardized tests does provide me with specific information as well. So I can look at some of the results. It doesn't give me, like the questions that they were asking and the answers that the students were giving, but it gives me a little bit of a breakdown of, their areas of strengths and areas of growth, where I can actually use that information to, change, the instruction in my classroom, change, if I have, my entire class is scoring, lower than I would like them to in, a certain area of literacy, maybe comprehension, identifying the main idea and the key details of a text. I could take that information and say, okay, this is something that my whole group would benefit from having some, core whole class lessons with main idea or key details. If there's things that there's, specific students are struggling with, I might take, that information and say, okay, now I know that I can work with this specific small group, during my literacy block and pull some kids into a little group together to work on some of those skills. So the FAST test is more useful than other standardized tests, at least in my opinion, as far as, kind of tailoring and altering my instruction. So hopefully that was a little bit of an answer for you.
Yeah, and Zam, what we do is when we see what the child is able to do, it's usually around conference times, or if a teacher has a concern about the child's growth, either they're so much smarter than everybody else, or they're struggling in some areas, the teacher will reach out to you and have a meeting with you to talk about where your child is at and what they may need. Because we do have summer school, and we have some other things that we could offer to increase kids' time in class, if that's what's, what you'd like to see, though I will never agree that extending a school day is a good idea because people are exhausted. But Zam, it's a partnership with you and the teacher. The teacher should talk to you about what your kid's progress looks like. And I don't know if your children offer, are in EL services or not, but sometimes our students who don't speak English as a first language, they'll get assistance there. Students that just need a little bit of help, the classroom teacher can often monitor that. We have a reading specialist and a math specialist who work with kids who are just a little bit below. And then we have special ed services that we can explain to a family if the child is very different than their peers and we're worried that they're not going to be able to catch up.
Okay, thank you very much, Dana.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about any one of those children, you can always just come over. We'll have coffee and talk about it.
Sure, I will do that.
Okay, good.
Also, too, if I can just say, to kind of build on what you just said, Donna, we definitely use it as a team as well. So like at grade level teams, we're using that data, looking at, goals for our, grade levels, And as Donna mentioned, like working with our EL teachers and our math specialists to determine, groupings for different students and different goals for them to work on in those groups. So absolutely.
So I just wanted to mention what our SIP goals actually were. And in kindergarten, we wanted to see an increase in proficiency. They're written kind of dryly, but it's okay. For specifically our students of color needing either light support, which is just a little column, instead of needing a lot of support, they're growing from 29% of the kids who just need a little bit of support to 45%. And in literacy at winter, we're only at 26%. So we're still working with our kindergarten kids to be able to read at the level we think they should be at by the time they're done with kindergarten. Not surprised, but it's a thing that we all know that's happening. Now in math, our kindergartners, oh, sorry.
Donna,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't quite follow. Are you saying that you're hoping that you're hoping that half, like 44%, only need a little bit support?
Yes, because the other ones are proficient.
Okay, so it's either a little bit support or proficient?
There's a line that's more severe support or more support needed. And then there's a light support, meaning they're just a little bit below, and then there's proficient. And I don't think it's called proficient because it keeps moving. It's just maybe, I don't know what the exact words are from that assessment, but what our SIP team wanted to find out was, can we specifically target our kids of color who come in, who might need more help, and then see if we can move them with that focus, like a laser focus on the kindergarten and first grade kids. So for reading, we didn't do as well as we thought. Now for math, we were supposed to increase growth for 40 kids from 11%. This is what they started out at, 11% of our kids in kindergarten in math were light enrichment or enrichment. That's what it's called, enrichment. And so the winter progress, 11% was really shocking to us that we got kindergartners. That meant that they didn't know how to count backwards from 10 or maybe up to 10. Or if you had 3 marbles in front of you and you covered one up and they looked at them, they should be able to guess how many marbles were, it's like taking one away or adding one. Only 11% of the kids were able to do very well on that assessment. So guess what? By winter progress report, 46% of the kids, or 18 out of 40, are in the light or enrichment area. So they made great growth in that area. This overview picture is harder to understand than when you look at your child's actual chart. So when you'll see these assessments from your child's teacher and you'll understand it a little bit more. The reading, the literacy says that in first grade, they wanted to see an increase from 32% of our kids needing just a light, who needed more severe support, to move up to 47% for light support. And at the winter progress, we found 16 of them had moved successfully to enrichment or had made sufficient gains in that area. So that was 16 out of 66 students. In math for first grade, they were hoping to see the kids move up to light or enrichment from 37% to 53%. And their winter progress report showed that 73% of our kids in first grade are in light support or enrichment. So that's a very good number. It's not the most, it's not the easiest stuff to dig through when I'm talking about these numbers, because you can always say a child wasn't feeling well that day when they took the test. It's a snapshot of what your child might do. But as a school, we need to keep paying attention to our population who are much more discrepant from their peers. And those are the kids we want to have catch up before they're in that third grade group where they're going to need to read to learn instead of just learning how to read. So it says, oh, let's see what else I want to tell you about this. We talked kind of about what adult strategies should we monitor? What do we do that impact the kids, and how do we as teachers, I mean, all kids can learn. That's just the truth. So how do we make sure that kids are all being treated equally and fairly, or in it with an equity lens, I guess I should say, not just equally. And we talked about which critical element do you want to monitor adult behavior. And so there are kids who receive a lot of support at our school, and we want to make sure that it doesn't get mixed up with all the people who are giving support to the kid. We want to make sure that someone's paying attention to how that child is moving along, one person all the time. And we are assessing ways that we can get areas that they need support in, pinpointed, and help them move forward. So we take a big kind of a puzzle and we try to hone it down into small individual students and watch them grow. So, and we try to do this mostly because, as you know, for a long time, our school was more white kids than kids of color. And that's not necessarily true anymore in our big change with the CDD, but we still have our students who are super smart and fly past the curriculum. And we still have our kids who come in who are very new to education. The last thing I want to say about that is this year's been a real interesting year where we have found that we have been, first of all, we're receiving kids all year because of our citywide status. So we just keep getting new kids. Like we got 8 new kids last week, 8. That's a lot. And some of those children haven't been to school in 2 years. And so that's shocking because their skill set is obviously different than anybody else's. So that causes a little stress for all of us too. So we're doing the best we can with the children that walk in the door and try to catch them up as much as possible. Okay. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about, and then I'm pretty much done with my agenda items on this for the site council, is our schools community, or our school community, while it is changing, it changes in all different ways. And so we are offering a professional development experience for staff from the Welcoming Schools group. And the Welcoming Schools group talks about gender and vocabulary and inclusivity and how we as teachers can welcome every single student in our school. And how do we do that without feeling all uncomfortable when somebody says, well, I'm trans and I want you to call me blah, 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 which not surprising to me, but maybe surprising to many of you out there. We have more and more kids at younger and younger ages identify themselves this way. And I was interested in just sharing with you that we did a meeting on Wednesday, and it was very, it was well received, and the guy knew what he was doing. So it was very helpful to the staff to feel that we were getting good information on how to talk to kids. They gave us some pre-work, we could watch videos, and we'll have them available as we move forward. And if parents want to see what we're doing, it would be great. We'll share it with you. And we're gonna have one more session with him. But as most groups, most presenters, they're way more expensive than we usually can afford. So we have this guy for 2 weeks and two 2-hour sessions basically, or 45-minute sessions. But the interesting thing that I got some feedback about is that, or I guess I just want to make sure that we are sensitive to all families too. As we as we move on in education and more kids identify in certain ways, or more and more kids say they have two moms or two dads, or they're being raised by their grandparents. It's one thing for the teachers to pay attention to this, but I have to consider the whole community. And it was funny because I asked the question about, I had gotten some feedback from some of our Muslim families about how are we teaching the kids about all this stuff. And when I brought the question up to the presenter, he was like, well, we welcome everyone. And I said, I appreciate what you're saying, but the feedback was, I'm not too sure that the families that were talking to me about it were that excited about having their kids learn about this. And the presenter was kind of like, but we welcome all families and we'll just keep going. But as a school community, I have to think about that. And I want all of you like to give me feedback about, I want this to move forward because it is good for all kids and it doesn't hurt any kid. But I also think we're going to be sensitive to families any family who may feel uncomfortable about the topic. So, that's a thing that I think the Site Council could chew on for a while and maybe move a conversation to Family Connections sometime to further the conversation with parents, So that's my ask of you. And I just wanted to tell you about that because it's very good information, but it also, I understand sometimes over the years, I've had many different families because we're a public school with different opinions. And I really, while I stand firmly in the belief that we're doing the right thing for all of our children, I also want to be sensitive to families who might need more explanation. So we'll see how that goes. Got any good ideas for me?
We could certainly do something potentially in June if there's room in the agenda or next year. But to me, this kind of seems like this isn't really something to disagree about, right? This is like saying, hey, we're not going to teach accurate history because it makes people uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that we're, affirming our kids so that, and if that makes some people feel uncomfortable, we can certainly work with that, but it's not really something that's up.
I think you're right, Claire. I think that's exactly what I'm looking for because I don't think it even needs to be in this year. It can be one of the fall conversation topics about welcoming all families and talking about all the different families that come to our school. Classroom teachers do that all the time every year, but we have our different language speakers. We have our LGBTQ families. We have kids. It's such a community that I think it would be nice to have the adults talking about that so that maybe if there were people who might have a feeling, they could have a thought partner to be able to talk to them about that so that it's not just we're steamrolling something through or we're not. And over the years, I've had to come up with compromises and have long discussions with families who didn't understand the mixture between public school and private school and how we could accommodate religious topics or not accommodate them. Because we did for a long time. Over the years, we've always been very respectful of holidays that weren't really on the calendar or times when kids needed to pray and we would negotiate how that would work within education. We could have just said absolutely not, but in Minnesota, we're just not really like that. And so we're able to have these conversations that worked out well and they taught me as well as the other people. Everybody got an education out of what we were trying to figure out. So I think this topic is going to maybe bring forth some more questions. And, it would behoove us to have Anissa, Susanna available to help families understand in their own language if they need it. So I'm just bringing up an idea, a thought about this. Yes.
Isn't there a MPS what's his name, Jason.
And
And-
yes,
Doesn't he do work related to gender equity and whatnot?
he does.
So
He does.
I'm just wondering if he could be a resource as well.
Absolutely. And what I'm thinking is that not just our staff should learn about this stuff, but it would be nice if we brought it forth to the family. So there could be some discussion and parents could talk to their kids about what they're hearing about it too, rather than be unsure about what's happening and then have a reaction that might come across as more not conservative, negative. That's what we don't want. We want to keep reaching out for understanding.
If anybody doesn't know, I'm transgender. My wife is transgender and I have a transgender teenager. I always want to meet more parents, especially parents who have different background from me. So Donna or Sydney or Claire, I would love to have cultural exchange experiences with families or parents anytime if they have any questions for me. And I would love to learn more about the cultures of families that I might not be as familiar with their cultural backgrounds as well. So just to throw that out there.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing that with us. And also thanks for that offer, because there are so many times still to this day that there are parents who don't want to come in the principal's office because they remember how they felt when they had to go to the principal's office. Most people get over that and they know that I'm like a jokester and I'm fine and I'm not going to yell at anybody and we're all in this together. But there are still people who are like, what? Nothing. So it's nice when parents can connect like that. And I think that that would be something that maybe at the beginning of the school year, we could have an affinity group. We could have several. I mean, we used to have a small, and I had tons of Somali parents come. But then we kind of got to the point where we didn't need an interpreter as much and people had their cell phones and they were pretty whippy. And even though we had so much fun at those meetings, it was time to join the crowd. And then we didn't get as many Somali families. So affinity groups are not a bad idea. And I think that being inclusive is part of that, is acknowledging what you might want to learn about. So that's really all I have today.
I think Zamzam has a question and then I want to give a principal search update too.
Okay, Zamzam.
Yeah, I have question about the kids is praying at school. Can
Okay.
you explain that for me?
How the kids play at school?
Oh, praying for Salat, Muslim kids.
Yes. So before I had Anissa on my staff, we've always had a Somali, a bilingual person with us to not only interpret, but also to help us navigate that. And through him educating me and the rest of our colleagues, we figured out that, first of all, most of our children are very young and that it's not a requirement for them to do some of the things that they're starting to try out to do. And so while we honor that idea of having kids explore, like fasting or praying during certain times, we had to reach an agreement where they weren't losing their academic minutes to leave the classroom to go to pray and come back. One problem for us was we never had enough room. So often the kids would come in my office and pray. I would leave, they would use my office to pray. It was pretty quick. But over the years, we've been able to tell students that, we understood that that there's this, they can do that during their lunchtime or their recess time, but not during their school time. And that works for most kids. There's always some people who are more strict, who want it at the exact time. But as a public school, we do the best we can to honor that opportunity if your kids want to pray during the day. And it's usually when we were a K-8 exam, I had older kids who did that more regularly. But the little ones, not so much. They haven't been as interested in taking time out from their school day to pray yet. But it's available for them if they want to.
Yeah, I talked to my kids. They told me they're scared to ask the teacher or the staff member. They don't even know about my religion. They say, no, they knows. If you're scared, I will ask for you.
Absolutely.
I encourage them first to talk to homeroom teachers, they said, no, we don't want to share it. You better talk to them. And if they give us permission, we're going to pray. That's why I'm asking.
Yes, and Anissa, are you still there? I see your little name there. Anissa is our bilingual person who can also navigate this with you.
Yes.
And
I am here.
Anissa is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So you can maybe connect with Zamzam and her daughters.
Yes, absolutely. From the time that I've been here with Marcy, open school, I haven't seen or met a parents who requested their kids to get for a room prayer. And I'm assuming because we are in elementary, but definitely as they go up to the middle school, we'll see more of that, like kids that they want to pray or parents will call us. But that's good. If she needs some anything, she has anything question, I can help her with that.
So Zamzam,
Okay, thank you, Anissa.
Did I answer your question, Zamzam?
Yeah, just my question is about praying, and
Yes.
Dana, she talked about the
Yes.
the different identities. Something I know, I understand that. I tell my kids that's okay, doesn't matter with me.
Yeah.
But my main question is, my kids, if they want to pray, if they give permission, I'm happy with it. That's my
Yes.
question. Yeah.
Most of the stuff that I've met, that I know from Marcy, they are very knowledgeable about our prayer and that we fast. And I'm just surprised that they didn't get that opportunity to step out of the class and pray. But if something that they ask, I think we can assist with that, and I will also talk to Dana in which area that they can pray.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Thank you, Anissa.
Of course. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay, well, I understand there's a parent connections meeting at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I wanted to give site council an update on the principal search too.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't done the interviews yet. So what happened is initially when associate superintendent, now appointed interim superintendent Rochelle Cox, came last month. She had given us a deadline of the first week in May to do the interviews. And we asked for a little bit more time so that we could get kind of Marcy specific surveys out to families and staff, so that we could get more responses. We are still welcoming responses if people would like, and I will put the link to the survey in the chat. But how the process goes is the district selects the candidates for us to interview. So the interview team at Marcy, which is comprised of parents, caregivers, and staff, do not select any of the candidates. Originally, we were told that there would be 6 to 7 candidates, and now it is 3. We will be interviewing 3 candidates. Yes, I can tell you who the folks on the committee are. We have, for parents and caregivers, we have myself, we have Mike who is here, we have Sonia, we have Kevin, and we have one more parent. I can't find her name right now. And then for staff, we have Joy Tulso is a kindergarten teacher. We have Anissa is on, she's here tonight. She's on the interview panel. We have Karan, who is a special ed ESP. We have Pang, who has done both classroom and interventionalist work. and subbing, like everything at Marcy. And then we have Hannah, who is the arts TOSA at Marcy.
Claire, can I say something really quick?
Yep.
I just want to, you know me, I don't pull any punches. This is the most performative words I'm not going to use in a meeting stuff. I am so upset by this process. I am so upset. It's not by anyone here at all. It's the process from the district. I am so upset that staff and parent volunteer labor, 3 surveys, 2 of which we had to create ourselves, and then synthesize all of the data from the surveys ourselves and have our translators translate the surveys and try to push them out and try to make sure that we are getting a representative response. All of this, and then asking people to volunteer for hours and hours of interview meetings, people who are really busy. Y'all tired? I'm tired. So that we can ask 1 to 2 questions to narrow a field of 3 down to a field of 2. So if anybody here is under the illusion that this whole process allows the Marcy community to have significant input into the principal search, all I ask is please do not be fooled. Like, I got involved because I wanted to be a part of something that I thought would actually, you know, allow some input, and I wanted to support this process. I have no idea. Maybe Claire does, because I know Claire's kind of a point of access, and Claire could speak to that. But like, I mean, of course I'm still gonna do it and I'm still gonna participate, and what I committed to do, I will be doing. But like, do not get this twisted, because it is not what the district is representing it to be at all, at least from what I thought it was.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that as well. I'm not on the interview committee, but just hearing Rochelle Cox, whatever title, speak last time definitely made it sound like the folks were going to have huge input. I mean, I'm probably preaching to the choir, but yeah, it's really frustrating because it was definitely misrepresented. And like you said, Sonia, people are putting in so much time for hardly any input at all, which is very disappointing.
Yes.
Someone should give her that feedback.
Yes, that yes, absolutely. I have an ongoing list of feedback. Sydney, I don't know why we were told there would be a candidate pool, that they would give us 6 to 7 candidates to interview, and now it's only 3. I know that it was 4 and 1 person withdrew their application. I don't know why. I don't know if I don't know. All I know is we are interviewing 3. I do not know any of the names. I don't know any of the experiences. I tried asking if any of the candidates had arts backgrounds or experience with Minneapolis, and I was told that it's a mixture of both. So I'm not, we'll find out. The interviews are going to happen on Monday, the 16th, and Tuesday, the 17th in the evening. They'll be they'll be virtual. And so we'll find out. We have to sign some confidentiality, so we won't necessarily, I don't know when we'll be able to share information about that beyond when the interviews will be, but the interviews will be next week. And then what happens after we submit 1 or 2 is they will have a final interview with Ed Graff, the superintendent, and then he will make the final decision. And so that's where we are with the principal search. So if anybody was wondering, and if anybody has questions, I would be happy to answer. Berkeley, thank you. The
MVP here is Claire, though. If any of you are not in this email process, like, I don't know how this lady works so hard on behalf of our community, but like, just because I was just like complain, like, my heart is like swelling and my eyes are welling up at how hard Claire works for us. So that's the one shining thing here.
Thank you so much, Sonia. Yeah, maybe at our June meeting we'll have a principal for next year. And maybe that information will already be shared. But that's all I had.
Okay. Well, on that cheery note, thank you all for coming tonight and have a fun family connection meeting.
Yeah, if everyone wants to just take like a 5-minute break, we have just a little bit of boring business stuff we need to do, and then we have an amazing speaker who is coming, Roy. So if anyone is available to stay, we would love you to stay. If you have to go, we understand it will be recorded. So let's take like a 5-minute break and come back at 7.
Do we need to use, I have a question, different link, or I can just stay here for the next parent connection?
Yeah, it's the same link. It's the same link. So you can stay or you can go and come back, whatever works best for you.
Sounds good.
But it's
Thank
the same
you.
link. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome everybody to Family Connections. We are so glad you are here. Welcome if you are joining us afterwards or on the call this evening. I am going to put the agenda in the chat so that people can see that. We have a fabulous guest with us this evening. But we do need to do just a few minutes of some boring meeting stuff that we've been putting off for a couple of months. So I'm really hesitant to put it off again. But first, if we can do a quick round of introductions, if you can share your name, your pronouns, and what how you're connected to Marcy. So if you have kiddos here, or if you're staff, or however you might be connected, if you can do that, that would be fabulous. I will go first. My name is Claire. I use she, her pronouns. My oldest is in 1st grade at Marcy. That is the grade they are in. And let me pass this off to Emmy. And if you can pass it off to another person, that would be fabulous.
Hi, I'm Emmy. I use she, her pronouns, and my daughter Leora is in kindergarten at Marcy. And I will pass it to Abby.
Hi, sorry, I just came in, Claire. You just wanted us to say who we were and our kids. Okay, I'm Abby. I have a 2nd grader and a 3rd grader, 2 boys. And I'll pass it to Kate.
Thanks, Abby. I'm Kate, she, her pronouns. I am a parent. I have a kindergartner in Stacy's class, whose name is Milo, and I have a 3rd grader whose name is Oliver in KDP's class. I will pass to Mike.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike Hogan. I have a son, Emmett, who is in 2nd grade in Andrea's class, and yeah, that's it. I'll pass it to, I already forgot who didn't go yet. I'll pass it to Taylor.
Hello, my name is Taylor. I use he, him pronouns. I have a daughter, Adelaide, who is in Miss Joy's kindergarten class. And I will pass to Anissa.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Anissa. I'm one of the Mercy staff, associate educator, bilingual. Yes, I think that's, and my pronouns are her and she. I will pass it to who needs to go next.
I can jump in. Thank you, Anissa. My name is Roy Kawai. I use he, him pronouns. I am an equity coordinator for MPS. So my connection to Marcy is pretty new, but I do racial and gender justice work across the district and mostly for K-5 schools. And thanks for having me this evening. Going to pass it to Laura.
Hi, my name's Laura. I use she, her pronouns. My son, Leo, is a kindergartner in the Stacy's class. I'll pass it to Donna.
Donna, you're muted.
Sorry, my name is Donna. I'm the principal, and I use she, her pronouns. And let's see what else I wanted to say. I guess I'll just pass it to Zam. I apologize, I won't be able to be here for all of the meeting, but I did want to hear Roy's comments, so thank you.
Hi, my name is Zamzam Kadir. I have 3 kids. 5th grade, her teacher is Susan. 3rd grade, her teacher is Sarah. Kindergarten, her teacher is Mark. Thank you. I'm passed to
It's me,
Abby.
Sansan.
Abby. Okay, thank
It's
you.
me. After your name is coming, my name. So I will go. Hello, my name is Susana, and I am the bilingual program assistant in Spanish and this year. So I'm happy to see everybody today too. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sydney. I am she, her, and I have 2 children who've gone all the way through Marcy. I'm the family and community liaison. I started the same year Donna did. I think Sonia, have you gone? Is Sonia still?
Yep, sorry. It just
I'm
takes me a
sorry,
second.
my sound
Nope,
is
you're
cutting
good.
out.
I'm Sonia. I use any pronouns. I have a kindergartner, Foxy, at Marcy, who learns from home, and then there's a robot situation. So let's see. Abra, have you gone yet? Okay.
Hi, I'm Abra, she, her. I have Cassius, who's in 5th grade, and Thea, who is in 2nd grade. And I think that leaves Taylor. Have you gone yet? You're on the list of not having gone.
I went.
Okay, and I think we're all good, yeah?
Okay, fabulous. So if we can do approval for meetings from February, the 2 March meetings and April meetings, can we get those all approved?
I motion to approve the February 10th, March 4th, March 10th, and April 14th meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. And then Kate and Sydney, if you had any quick announcements that you wanted to share, it is open.
Sydney, you're muted.
Do you have anything, Kate?
Nothing significant, do you?
Okay. I have one small thing, which is a district initiative that's starting on Monday that is going to be called Save Your Seat on the Bus. And we really want to disseminate this information to all of our families. So Susanna, Nisa, and I will be working on that. Every family who wants transportation next year is going to have to contact the district transportation department. So it'll be like a link that you'll click and then you'll just put your information in. But I just want to give everybody a heads up that that's coming.
Is that a different process than usual?
Wait,
Oh
Sydney,
yeah,
are you saying
previously everybody was
transportation's
just
it's going to be opt-in? Transportation to
going
schools
to be opt-in because they have a bus driver shortage and they have buses, they say, that have capacity to have 60, 70 kids on them, and they have 20 kids. And then the other bus has no driver. So they want to kind of start from scratch and rebuild, knowing exactly who wants transportation. Everybody will still get transportation, but they're gonna have to be proactive, and I imagine we'll be helping a lot of families fill out the link.
Anissa and Susanna, do you feel like we're going to be able to reach the families who are more disenfranchised or who have more communication barriers in the district? Because this is not very equitable. I would love to hear if either one of you have takes or concerns.
Yeah, I can go. I heard this from Sydney this morning, and it was a kind of surprising to me. However, I think Suzanne and I will be calling to the Somali speakers and explain how things changing and what they need to do. It might not only be one call or one, reminder. I have to make a frequent calls and make sure that they have to sign, that they have to check their emails and and submit the application. It's a kind of process, but yes, I will be trying my best to reach out those Somali speakers, the parents.
And I believe every school will have a list too, so we'll know who hasn't opted in yet, and we can contact them directly.
So Sonia, I will contact our family. I have usually Sydney provide me the list, and then I contact those family. And as usually, I 100% helping our families. And then for now, we provided a lot of transportation, even taxi cab. There's many students that the social worker and me, we arranged a specific special transportation for our families, the students, because they don't want to move their kids from Marcy, and that's the priority for us too at this moment. And then we provide them transportation, and they are very happy because we call a transportation, we coordinate in, and we send them the private transportation to their houses, and then all those things. That we really work in that very hard and to support our family in that way too, Sonia. So thank you for your application and being part of this committee too.
Thank you
Really
so
appreciate
much, both of you, for this
Really.
work.
And
It's important.
Susanna will call the families in the morning and let them know which buses are late or not coming every day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're doing that kind of job too, Sonia, in the morning, and I tell them, and I kind of call the parents that the kids leaving from the school, they're gonna get in the house in this time, and please call transportation, and they're gonna get late or something like that. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you
we
so
really
much.
work. Yeah.
Let us
I
know
just-
if we can support you.
Thank you
Okay.
so much, Sonia. We really appreciate you.
So I have my hand up because I just wanted to say that it's a good time in our district for some changes, starting from the new superintendent, whoever is chosen, because Sydney got this information first. I got an email today saying, guess what? You have this great opportunity to do all this work right before the end of the year. And I don't see a good situation coming out of this, given the number of people who move during the year and the number of people who are who have a hard time. Maybe they don't speak English or Somali or Spanish and Somali, but we're lucky here at Marcy to have qualified people to do this. However, this year the transportation has been horrendous, and again, just like COVID rules and regulations, parents kind of get mad at us because we're the ones standing there when the bus hasn't come. And one day I had 5 buses out of 12 buses not show up. So hundreds of parents who live all over the city drive their kids to school. It's like I'm embarrassed. And I made a commitment to my family saying that I told the teachers, I don't want any family to use an Uber to get their kid to school or to come and pick up their kid. I will drive them home. So that's what we do. We do the best we can with what we have, but now we have this new email coming out. So I share your frustration, Sonia. I'm not going to quite be as adamant about it because I'm going to do the work and I'm going to just do what I've been doing for a long time and try to make sure everybody's needs get met. But it's been really difficult as a magnet school, a citywide magnet school, to have children who take the bus half an hour, or the honest truth is then I just stay here till 7 o'clock, and then somebody comes and picks up the kids. It's very, very frustrating. So I hope this new way works, but if it's self-referral, sometimes parents don't remember to sign up for a new bus when they just moved to another house. So that's my biggest worry. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So on that very positive note, I would like to, okay, wait, first, Kate's gonna share some information about discipline at Marcy and across the district. And then we will introduce our fabulous guest speaker.
Can I share my screen? No. Can you make me share my screen, or let me make me? Okay. All right. So are you seeing the spreadsheet? Okay, so I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I want to make sure that we have lots of time for Roy to have a conversation with us. But I wanted to share, or Family Connection said it would be nice to have like a grounding in what do we mean when we talk about discipline data, especially at like a school-wide level. So this is all, I've prepared a couple of slides to give you an idea of the discipline data at Marcy. And this is all information taken from the MPS website. MPS does a really comprehensive job of tracking discipline data by school and district-wide. And that link is in the link for both this document and the like general link for the data on the MPS website is in the agenda. And a note about the link to the MPS website, it's like a huge database. So if you click on it, let it load. Like it takes like a good minute before things will actually pop up. So the link does work, just be patient with it and it will come up. So the first slide that I have here is a district-wide look at referral rates across schools. So referral rates meaning like referral to a disciplinary action, right? So this is from this school year 21-22, and I just kind of took a snapshot of the schools with the top levels of discipline referral rates, and then kind of categorize them by if they were an elementary school, middle school, or high school. And the thing that stood out to me on this slide was that Marcy is currently the only elementary school in the top like 16 lists of highest referral rates. So that's something that stood out to me as all of the schools that have comparable or higher rates of referral are serving older students. This next slide is kind of a district versus or compared to Marcy overview. So an overview of discipline referrals historically at the district level. You can see they break it down by the year and then what kind of disciplinary action was taken in that year. So suspensions, out of school removal, in school removal, that all those categories. And you can see, 2020, 2021, there were very few disciplinary actions taken because everybody was distance learning, right? So that really kind of put a wrench in the data in terms of longitudinal, but overall, you can see that disciplinary referrals are lower, they're down in this current school year. And that's also mirrored in our Marcy discipline data as well, right? So you can see that there's a pretty big kind of like uptick leading up to 1920, and then a pretty big like decline for this year. So then diving deeper into just elementary schools, I just pulled the data from the 3 most comparable schools in terms of elementary schools with kind of comparable disciplinary data in the district, which were Nellie Stone, Falwell, and Whittier, and then us, and just kind of did a snapshot of, what is the school population at the beginning of this year? How many total referrals were there? This is all semester 1 data, just to have a kind of consistent point to refer to. What were the number of suspensions, and then breaking that down, what percentage of referrals lead to suspensions at those schools, and then what is the percentage of the population that is suspended at some point during the year. So the takeaway that I got here when you look at these numbers is that at Marcy, our discipline action results in suspension really often. So 84% of the time this year, compared to some of the other schools that we're looking at as well, which, for example, like Whittier, 25% of the time, or Nellie Stone, 14% of the time. And then the last piece that I'm pointing out in this slide is, and on the next slide, is kind of how does that disciplinary response vary with school population, right? So you can see these charts here that the district puts together is a really helpful visual of what is the percentage of racial groups at each school, and then what percentage of the disciplinary actions do they compose, does each group compose, right? So, so the little red line on each of the lines is the percentage of the referral that population has, and the yellow line is the percentage of population. So if the red line goes past the yellow line, it means that those students are disproportionately referred for behavior. So if you scroll down, or if you go to the next page here, which is just Marcy, you can see that at Marcy, African American students are 248% more likely to be involved in a disciplinary action than their like percentage of the population, right? So this breaks it down kind of even further at a Marcy level, by student subgroup. What are the disciplinary actions that are being taken, and what is the difference between categorizations of violent versus non-violent, which is a whole discussion that we could have in and of itself, but for those referrals. So again, all of this information is available on the district website for not just Marcy School. Obviously you can look up various different schools and see what their data is for the semester, the year, whatever.
Thank you, Kate, for kind of synthesizing that data and that information down that is on the website. This is not a new problem. This is an ongoing problem. This is district-wide, and we are very grateful that Roy is here this evening to speak with us. Roy is an equity coordinator with the Minneapolis Public School Culture and Climate team. If you are unfamiliar with this like subgroup of the district, this is the first year that I have also heard and become aware of the Culture and Climate team. I am very grateful that we have them, and I am very grateful that Roy is spending a portion of his evening with us. And so without further ado, Roy, please impart all of your knowledge and wisdom onto us.
Oh, big ass. Thank you, Claire. And thanks for the introduction. I wanted to just go a little bit more in depth description of what I do, just so you have an idea of why I'm here and maybe how we can partner in the future. And so I've been with Minneapolis for about 3.5 years. I like to say that at its best, my work is at the intersection of racial and gender justice work, but really at a very personal level. My work here is about like really my own healing from racialized trauma in my past, and creating spaces for particularly dark-bodied BIPOC students to experience joy in school because of who they are. Like, that's really what I do. And I do that with really, really young kids. So I do that with kids that are in kindergarten and pre-K over at Las Estrellas. I have a 5th grade group at Hmong International Academy that focuses on Asian body joy and kind of connecting to your Asianness, understanding its relevance within sort of like the social dynamics of race. But my primary work, most of my time is spent working with administrators, with teachers, and with educators broadly, thinking about the ways that our actions as adults impact how particularly BIPOC students experience school, and kind of making that connection. And so that's really a little bit of sort of like the broad work that I do with schools. I also do other work with ethnic studies, for example, as MPS passed the legislation around everyone being required to take ethnic studies. I'm working with that group. I'm also working with affinity spaces, creating spaces for specifically BIPOC staff to have a place to experience joy and connection with each other. So I do broad work with like that across the district, but my work is really situated in schools mostly. And just to lay a little bit of groundwork too, I was invited into the space by Emmy, and Emmy, thank you for tapping me in. That was the first time I met with the group of caretakers. And so, and we discussed a little bit about what we want to do today. And so I think what I'll do is briefly summarize what some of my reflections were about our meeting together. And then I'd like to open it up to the group and actually open up in a circle so that everyone's voice is able to kind of get into the space. So, as Claire mentioned, and I think this is completely true, the disciplinary data, gendered and racialized disciplinary data, the disparities are a very, very old problem at MPS. It's been around since the kind of like the integration or like the desegregation pushes that have occurred across the district. But the bigger question, of course, is as a group of caretakers, what is a very distinct and clear entry point to make an impact on the outcome of that disciplinary data? Right, so a couple of layers that I mentioned that I'm hoping just to bring up as possibilities are, so the first layer I think of is at the very point of contact between an adult and a young person, and commonly an adult and a young person who's at an escalated or what we might call like deregulated state of emotion, right? So do adults in those spaces have the knowledge and the process and the skills to know what to do in a moment of emotional escalation, especially if they themselves are also dysregulated, right? And so it's at that particular moment where the easiest thing to do commonly is to escape and to push the child out. And we know that's exacerbated and because of implicit bias and kind of systematized socialized racism that I think there's a lot of backstory to that, of course, but the darker body the student is, the more gendered the student is towards maleness and queerness, those dimensions really amplify the decisions that are made against children to be referred, to be kicked out of school, to be kicked out of the classroom, even removal to a different part of the classroom. Those are all, like at that particular moment is a very important point of impact, which as caretakers, you have a very good sense of how your young people in Marcy are experiencing that. So that's one point of impact that I was thinking about that you could think about. Even before that, of course, is really unpacking and understanding where those racialized and gendered biases come from and why a particular behavior from a young Black boy, young Somali boy, a young queer Somali person, if we add these intersections, why your understanding of that child's behavior is deviant or somehow worthy of punishment or worthy of exclusion, unpacking that process and understanding why you're making those decisions, and then being able to regulate your body to be like, I am doing this now. I am making a decision to kind of like, to let my socialization and my default thinking about these bodies overtake me. And so how do we unpack some of that stuff that comes behind the decision-making process in terms of mindset? That's another entry point. Other entry points include, of course, changes in policy and changes in process. So Marcy and Marcy staff have to follow what they consider to be the policy for behavior referrals. There's also a referral form where whoever makes the referral for a young child has to fill it out and justify why the referral is being made. There are many points, including change in policy and change in the referral process and the change in the processing of the referral in which interruptions can happen, in which specific pointed changes can be made. So I just wanted to offer that as another potential layer policy, referral processes, and also the processing of referral, that's another entry point for how we might think about impacting change. And the last one I wanted to bring up, because actually this was brought up by a member of the group, is really about creating classroom conditions, of course, where young people don't have to escalate their emotions because they already feel safe, seen, and valued in that space, or they know if they do feel a strong emotion that is often considered to be a punitive, like something that should be punished, anger, frustration, resistance, right, sense of powerlessness, so like shutting down, all those kinds of behaviors that young children will do when they don't feel safe in a space. If the kids know what to do in that particular moment, or feel like the adults and the other kids in that room know enough about what's happening that they feel safe to be able to bring those emotions somewhere, to hopefully to the adult, but also young people around them. If those conditions are created in a classroom, you don't see escalated behaviors. That's the preventative side, and that's the long-term play, right, of changing conditions in classrooms that celebrate the validity of all emotions. And I would kind of like go all the way down, specifically naming the emotions of young, dark-bodied children that show up as boys or male and or queer are commonly the ones that are overrepresented. And of course, those that show up as girls and or that maybe present as female or feminine, there is a different, right, understanding of what those behaviors mean. So those are all the things that I reflected on. And my biggest argument in the moment was, as a parent group, the stronger power you have is when you narrow down what your entry point is to like a sharp point, so you can like rip a tear in the system that is being built, and it's just operating as it's supposed to. It's operating to push out kids. That's what's happening now. So where's the point of tear that's a sharp point that you can all pinpoint as a group, as we want to work on this one narrow thing? And the other question that I would have behind that is, where does your heart and body sit on what that point is? So for example, if the point is about policy, do you have a personal bodily somatic reaction when you see a policy like that is systematizing and racializing discipline? Does your body react in a way? Or do you have a strong emotional reaction? And do you pay attention to that? Because if you don't live in a dark body, if you don't live in the space of young children with dark bodies, it's so easy to get frustrated and give up and actually create more harm for those kids because your lived experience is not the same as theirs. And so in order to stay in the game, and I was telling the group yesterday, a lot of crap is going to be thrown your way probably because you're trying to reshape a system that has been formulated since integration has been attempted and desegregation has been attempted. That's gonna come with a lot of kickback, and not only just from other caretakers might give you kickback, educators might give you kickback. So are you ready to invest in that? And if your body is telling you you are, then take a step forward. If your body does not react or feels numb to it or doesn't have a strong reaction, I guess my plea to you now is, how do you get to a space where you actually will have that emotional reaction? Because that's what's going to carry you through the work. And it's going to become really hard. So that's all I sort of wanted to say in terms of what was shared. And Kate, thank you for very much outlining in a very detailed way what's happening at Marcy. So my next hope was really to bring your voices into the space. And here's what I'm asking of you. And I'm going to put a chat order or a circle order in the chat as well. The question that I'm asking you to first respond to is the question that I just posed in the chat. And this is really calling back into your body and the emotional reaction that you're feeling right now. Being honest with yourself in hearing what you heard from Kate, in hearing what you heard from what I shared as different entry points. What emotions are coming up for you? And is there a particular part of your body that you're feeling it in? And this is really a call to grounding. Like, let's get back into our bodies and see what's really happening to let our bodies tell us the truth. So the chat order is, the circle order is in the chat. Please feel free to pass if this is not something that you want to do right now. My encouragement, though, is that if you hit a certain point of discomfort and wanting to run away, because the truth is you're not feeling very much right now, if that's really the truth, that's okay. The honesty is where it's important, and the honesty is where the vulnerability is going to connect people together and build trust. Otherwise, the group won't be able to move forward together. So that's what I'm going to offer, and it can be really, really brief. I feel this, and I feel it here in my body. So the first person in the circle I have is Kate. Kate, you happened to go first before. I apologize. It just was the order that I put in place. Do you mind starting us off, and then we'll just kind of move through the circle?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks. I feel angry and disappointed and sad for that kids aren't getting the experience that I want them to get. And I feel it all in my stomach.
Thank you, Kate. Mike.
I don't know if this is a feeling really. It's more like I need more information now. I was given a little bit of information. I'd like some more.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Taylor.
I feel sad. I feel when I saw the data, I felt surprised to see Marcy so high up on the list. Frankly, you can also break down that list kind of by geography in the district, and Marcy fell outside the geography of some of those schools, as well as middle school and high school. So that was surprising to me. And so some confusion and some questions around why Marcy is high up on that list. I felt distant from the problem because I haven't experienced suspension or referral with my own child. And I guess I feel my emotions in my chest.
Thank you, Taylor. Susanna. You're gonna hear some banter in the background. It's also my kid's bedtime, so please forgive that. And Susanna, I apologize, please.
Yeah, as a person who work in the environment, I will say that I don't have to say that I'm feeling, but I would say that that's why we were on a strike, because we saw that we needed more support. And then, yeah, we still need a lot of support. And with the pandemic, we have a lot of our students struggle to come back in school. And then our students need a lot of support too, and our families. And then we completely understand that. And then we are over there, we have the training, we have a lot of strategies that we use with the students. And then as a teacher, I use a lot of strategies to, what can today I do with Samsung to get better? How can we get through the whole day? And we try to work in those, we are working in those things, and very, very strong. And everything that come out from our heart, we put it over there. But sometimes it doesn't work, it's too hard. And also, I would like to see more parents in the hallway. So that's the kind of support that we needed in the school. So, so they can help us.
So Susanna, if I were to synthesize a tiny bit, I heard feeling unsupported, and thank you. Feeling unsupported, and perhaps even a feeling of being overwhelmed at this time. So thank you for bringing that into this space. My quick suggestion as of right now, because of the size of the group, if you name the emotions, just be explicit about them and where they sit with you. Pulling back to that is I'm going to suggest to kind of lay at that for the ground level. Anissa.
Oh, can anybody see me? Oh, yeah, I'm here. Hello again. This is such a very important question, heavy question. I was just talking about that with one of my co-workers this morning, that how some of this of colored students get into trouble or need more disciplinary time. So I would say that the admins of Mercy should work on hiring more people who would know how to approach people of, I mean, student of color that would have such strategy disciplinary that would come out a good outcome rather than just them having that time and in the quiet room and let's say you did this today and you have to improve this, but someone who's very knowledgeable in this area, who's good disciplinary and setting for good real how to say good leadership skills and role model. That's what I would say.
Thank you,
Should
Anissa.
offer more support of a student of color to offer more support.
Thank you. If I were to glean something from what you were saying, I hear feeling unrepresented, right? And potentially unsupported again is sort of what I heard from you as well in this regard, or unseen. Thank you. Abra.
I think my connection is more intellectual to the problem, but at the same time, my shoulders and upper back are really tense and like knotted up right now. So I'm also having a physical reaction. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Abra. Appreciate it. Laura.
Hey, seeing especially the thing specifically about Marcy, I felt the shock and sort of like a depressed feeling about it, and I felt it in my stomach and then sort of up through my throat.
Thank you, Laura. Claire.
Yeah, really similar to me. I'm feeling it kind of like, I don't know, is this like your thorax or is that like an insect thing? I don't know, but like kind of in this like between the throat and like the heart area is where it's just feeling like really tight.
Thanks, Claire. I think right now, I feel a little bit of numbness. I think that's what I will default to sometimes when the emotions are sort of overwhelming, and my numbness will sit in my stomach. But I also have a sense of anxiety right now too, because of acknowledging how big of how much work needs to be done. Sonia.
Yeah, I am having a really large, intense somatic response. I would say visceral fear at the front, and anxiety and urgency and grief and despair. And it's, I got like the runner's muscle burning stuff going on in my legs, telling me to run away. And I have a lot going on in my jaw and my neck, and my stomach is very tense.
Thank you, Sonia. Donna.
I feel frustrated, and I feel that in my heart, I guess, in that heart area. And I feel somewhat distrustful by the way this meeting got set up and by the way the Family Connections didn't want me to present at this meeting. So I found that hard for me to understand, because I work really hard to have an open door policy. And in this case, a group of people met and basically told me I didn't need to speak. So I'm feeling frustrated.
Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it. Sydney.
Sorry. I guess I feel with the data, I feel sad. I kind of feel it like takes your breath away. Because I do see people trying incredibly hard at school to work with these kids. And I feel like it's kind of, the data doesn't necessarily reflect the efforts that people are making, but if people have strategies to improve things, I'm all for it. And I think Susanna, when she mentioned parents, I think she meant more specifically the parents of that child, maybe not just general parents working with those children that are having difficulty. I could be wrong. That's where I'm at.
Thank you, Sydney. Zamzam.
Hi, I'm really disappointed to see this one. I don't expect this coming like this, but he makes me nervous, and to see this stuff, these things, I don't know how to explain my emotion. It's very hard to me for now.
Thank you, Zamzam. Appreciate it. Emmy.
I feel furious and embarrassed for our school. And I feel it in my gut, which is where I feel all my emotions always.
It's good to know yourself in that way. Thanks, Emmy. Abby.
Hey, can everyone hear me? Sorry, I had to join from my phone audio.
Yep,
Abby, I can hear you. Yes.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. So I don't have my camera on, but I'm a white woman, but both of my kids are Black. And coming into this meeting, I feel desperate and sad, and like public education has let my kids down. And I feel angry hearing administration and almost getting kind of defensive. This is not an accusation, it's just the data is very clear. My children's lived experience is real, and I feel it in my chest. I feel my throat tightening up. I feel emotional. I'm bringing a lot of emotions into this meeting. This is really close to my heart, and my kids have been really affected by it.
Thank you very much, Abby. Just taking a moment to pause for a second, because I think in a space where emotions are allowed to be, or given space to share, it's easy to want to kind of run away from it and want to move on. But I want to hold every emotion in this space actually is completely valid. Ones that are coming up about anger or sadness or frustration or just sincere disgust or disappointment or defensiveness, all of those things are ones that they're valid. And so I just wanted to say it out loud and to name it, and to appreciate everyone also. If you felt like a part of you was opened up or was vulnerable and you shared a part of yourself, I just wanted to share gratitude and say thank you for that. I think one of the harder questions, and I'm kind of like looking at the time too, because I acknowledge it's 7:50 p.m. on a weekday, and there is a tornado watch outside still, as far as I know. So what I acknowledge is a multiplicity of things that are happening in your lives, that this is a heavy emotional thing to carry with you right now. One of the next, I think, step questions that I would like to continue thinking about as a group, is it a warning again, Susanna, or did it change to a warning? Okay, I didn't realize that. But I'm just holding that because I know.
I'm sorry, I just interrupting you. My husband just told me you need to come inside because there is tornado warning again. The storm is coming, he says. So
Okay.
I heads up to you and that.
I thank you for letting me know. I would like people to be safe. And I think that definitely is something that I want to hold. So I think what I'm going to offer then is, instead of directly answering the questions that I have to move on next, is just to leave them right now as a point of reflection and hoping that we'll continue this work moving forward. But one of the bigger points of connection and question, the next step is really thinking about where you're grounding your motivation for this work. And if you feel a sense of distance or a desire to intellectualize or a desire to get more, to rationalize and to get more information, all those things are totally like understandable. Like I would want that in your position. And to acknowledge too, that it's very possible that your lived situation is very, very far from those kids, the young people in dark bodies that are most directly and negatively impacted by this system. So the bigger reflection is for you, no matter what body you're in, is how do you make clear efforts to stay grounded in the lived experiences of young people most impacted by this disparity? And what I'm speaking to directly is in the Marcy community, specifically dark-bodied young children, specifically Black and African American children, and also Native children, as I saw in the data too, as being very overrepresented in the disciplinary disparity data. That without that at the center, their experiences at the center, if you're outside of that experience, you could, like I said, end up doing a lot more harm than good sometimes, with the best of intentions and the best of desires for good. And so that's the next thing that I wanted to kind of put out there. And Anissa, I'm just reading your comment here right now. And so Anissa, what I'm hearing from you is you feel like the support that you need is not there in order to do the best for students of color, or showing up for students of color in the way that you want to. Does that sound about right for what you're saying? Okay, if you want to come on back to the conversation after that, please let me know. And then the last question, of course, of as a group, the biggest question is what is next, right? And I think I would like to open that up to maybe 2 or 3 minutes in the chat. Would you be able to, in the space right now, and this is where the action step come, for yourself personally, not thinking of the whole group yet, for yourself personally, what is an immediate next step for you if you are committed to the kind of work that we're talking about that you could take before the next gathering of caretakers? My ask is to just type it in the chat, and it could be very, very simple. It could be learning more. It could be listening to the story of someone or another caretaker who may have more insight to the system than you do. There's a lot of ways that you could move forward. And my ask is just, what is that immediate next step for you? So if we can just take about a minute or so, 2 minutes to think about it, and then type it in the chat. So as people are typing, I'm just going to lift up some ideas so other people might be able to draw for them as well. Pressure administration to tap into the wealth of resources in Minneapolis to educate teachers on cultural and competency and restorative practices. Having a community partner who sent a grant today that Marcy could apply for to look into that. As a person who takes up a lot of space, ensuring I'm thinking back and centering other voices. Abby is sending a connection with Sonia to work together.
Oh, Abby, I did a thumbs up at you, but I just realized you're dialing in on audio and you probably couldn't see it. So I gave you a thumbs up, and yeah, we will connect on it.
Thank you, Sonia.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sonia.
I hear listening to and believing the lived experiences of students and families at Marcy that have not had the same experience as myself or my own kids or my kiddos.
Can I
Bring,
just
yes,
can I
please,
just
Anissa.
clarify something? So I'm
Yep.
one of the educators here at Mercy Open School, and as the educators, we have to follow the rules in how to discipline the children. But if a child is not behaving, regardless of color, we have to do what we were trained for to do, whether we need to talk to them or set for some goals, how they can improve their behavior. So from what I said previously, I'm clarifying that as educators, we try our best to help our students of color. Yet we have to follow through, the discipline that we have in place. So, yep, that's what I wanted to clarify. I I think what we are doing here at Mercy is we've been trying our best and committed to help our students to succeed in school, also as a disciplinary tool aspect. That makes sense.
It does. Thank you, Anissa. I think what I appreciate about that is there's like to validate that educators at Marcy are currently doing a lot and are currently holding a lot at this moment, especially where everything is seemingly on fire. And Anissa also described a need for support and a need for more connection and knowledge around what to do. So I'm going to hold this as a both and, right? That is true. And Black students as being 2.5 times more likely to be referred or to have exclusionary practices done to them, and Native students around the same. White students have roughly like 40%, right? Like less likely of a chance to do so is also not okay, right? They're both can be true at the same time. And both can exist at the same time. So one is that the way that I think of it is as a loving critique forward, right? Like they can both exist, is acknowledging I have been an educator for a long time, middle schoolers as well. Very much being at a place where it's like, I feel like I cannot do a shred more than what I'm doing right now. My capacity is completely full. And I feel like I'm being told I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. I don't know enough. That feeling it does feel very, if like in my body, it feels horrible. And like I can hold that at the same time that what we see in terms of the data and what we see in terms of practices cannot exist in the way that they are. If you're serious about racial justice, they can't coexist at the same time. So I really just appreciate you saying that out loud, and just it's a very humanizing thing to say, right?
From my experience and from what I have observed, the stuff we have here in Mercy been very very on they've been very kind and open and treating people, all the students equally. That's from what I have been experienced.
Yep.
And maybe if Anne is here, she can say something. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that that we are very committed to help students, what disciplinary works for them, and to set for some kind of strategy what will work for them. But I haven't seen any unpleasant or anything that's only particularly towards to the student of color. But I would say again, if we would get more support on that area, that would be great. Having more disciplinary staff that are very expert on this area, especially the 50th graders, if
Thank
that
you,
makes
Anissa.
sense.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. So there's a lot of things going on in the chat right now, and I don't want to ignore them entirely. Hopefully they can be captured in some way. I don't know who the host of the meeting is. Is that you, Emmy, or okay, Claire? Because I think there's a lot of things that are happening right now. And I just, yeah, what Anissa, you brought up of your lived experience at Marcy is you see kindness, you see folks that are really caring and folks that want to make connections with students of color, right? Like I think that again, I completely believe it. I have been to many schools where that's the primary way that people want to operate. And then again, this is the both and the outcomes that are happening are still inequitable, right? They're happening at the same time, because kindness and caring is important, but kindness and caring can also mask and be a way that whiteness will prevail, right? Like not wanting to get into conflict, not wanting to get to a point where dealing with the deep like work on yourself. Those are all things that both exist at the same time. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you that, again, that this is a very human problem and a human issue.
Yeah, I have some thoughts.
Yes, please, Zamzam.
Yeah, I was wondering, my child, I talk to them every night, how's going in school. But when I see the data now, it was shocked to me. I don't know what's going on. Like the kids they are friendly, or color people or white, all of them, they like each other and they work together. But the data, when I see is, I was surprised. I don't know what's going on.
Zamzam, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, please.
What surprises you or shocked you? I would like to know.
Yeah, the color of kids is too much discipline. I don't know. My experience, I have my daughter.
Yes.
One day she don't listen. They said she never be in trouble, but she miss her. She miss 15 minutes her break. I was wondering how they treat kindergarten kids. Very question me. I don't really understand how they treat kindergarten kids. That is wondering me. I don't know. That's very.
Yes, that's natural a parent to have that kind of concern. However, if a student doesn't follow the instructions, or doesn't do what she or he needs to do, I think to discipline them, it's something that's good for them, because that will prevent them not to repeat the same behavior. So
Anissa and Zamzam, I thank you for making sure to talk to each other. That's actually really important. What I would like to propose right now is to sort of hold what I'm feeling, the like weird kind of like discomfort, sort of like unsettled, sort of like fracturing of my body, like holding that and being okay with it right now, because until we're at a point of discomfort, change is not going to happen, right? So that to me is something that I'm comfortable saying we can close this meeting with, right? Like this accepting of, we're not closing the situation, we're opening up dialogue around it and multiple perspectives around it. But at least we can have a space where whatever emotion you're carrying into this, it can be validated. Like Taylor, you said that you're a little bit skeptical. Valid, right? Like, and you want to learn more, right? Like, was that not you, Taylor, on the chat, or did I misrepresent you? I don't want to misrepresent your words at all either.
Yeah, no, I'm not skeptical there's an issue. I had said I wanted to use the data to find the root cause.
I see. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for clarifying. I appreciate it. And so, yeah, just to kind of close with this idea that emotional kind of like discomfort is where we should be right now. And if we're not here, commonly complacency will take over again and the system will act the same way. And with that, saying thank you for sticking along for this long, and please be safe in this weather. And I want to pass it along to anyone else to, if you have any closing words or anything you want to say for the next meeting.
Quick question. I looked on the website for the group and your contact information isn't there. Is that because you're not the correct person to contact, or is it just a matter of the website not being updated?
Can you tell me which website you're on, Aurora?
It's the one that the link was shared to the, hold on a sec. the MPS Culture and Climate team underneath the contact us bar on the side.
Right. So right now I'm sitting on the equity and integration team. Starting in the fall will be one team. This is a part of reshuffling. So I am an equity coordinator on the equity and integration team. That's why I'm not listed there. But my partner, Ann Viveros, is on that team, and we partner a lot. And she couldn't make it today. So
So
yeah,
that should be the point of contact.
Yes.
That should be the point of contact then. for
And
us.
will
Okay.
be right. But I will always be in support. And I'm also happy to be here anytime I can.
Roy, I would like to
Yes.
thank you too. This is my first time that I had the opportunity to listen to you and interact with the family member connections. And then, yeah, this is very important for me to listen. And then as an educator myself, it's very important for me. So thank you for your input and your navigation with us today.
Thank you, Susanna. Appreciate it. Thank you for
Yeah.
speaking into the space. Yep.
I wonder if we have any agreements about our next steps or who will be coming together in what capacity to talk about this the next time. I get really scared of complacency too. So I want to kind of always know how we're moving forward together, even if it's a contingency, just to keep the work moving. I don't know if Roy has any recommendations or if we collectively come up with how we want to keep talking about this.
I mean, from a logistics standpoint, I'm going to have to leave that up to you when it's possible for you to collect together again. My take is really thinking about, as a collective group, if you are invested in this in a way that you have an emotional or bodily connection to what is happening, if you feel like you're there honestly, what is the one narrow entry point for change that you want to come into? And I named a few possibilities, but there are a lot of others that I'm happy to talk about, that I have other teammates that also know a lot more than me about to bring into conversation. But really getting to a point where you can rally around one idea and start taking very clear planned action on that idea. That's really what I would think to do next. But the group will likely, I feel like there's a very possibility for the group to kind of scatter away from each other, or like to be disinterested and get disentangled, if you don't keep coming back to the question of like, why am I invested in this group and why am I invested in this specific issue, right? Like knowing that motivation has to be clear. Otherwise, I think, it'll be a very long and very tough road ahead if the group doesn't come together, right? So, I guess that's my thought for right now.
Roy, can you just say again, you were saying that your group and the group, the culture and climate team are going to be merging, but did you say that Anne should be more of our point of contact?
So no, thank you for clarifying. I mean,
yeah.
I'm happy to be the primary point of contact.
Okay.
And I will partner with as much as possible, but I think for this particular instance, in this situation, I'm happy to be the point of contact for you.
And
we have a
thanks for-
caregiver. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
I was just going to say, we have a caregiver email list. There's 5 of us. It's me, Emmy, Claire, Kate, and Abby who have been talking about this so far. And that's just a group that came together like organically at different people at different times as we've been talking about this. So those are people who have kind of elected, I think, to be part of continuing the work. And if we could maybe hear from folks either now or maybe get to have Claire, if you want to be included on the future iterations. Not everybody has to, if it's not work that you're particularly called to do, like that's okay, but I do think that having a group of people who feel really committed and want to be part of the long game work and making sure that we are in communication with each other regularly is probably the place, how we get to that next figuring out our access point that Roy's recommending. So that's my idea.
Thank you, Sonia.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Roy, if it sounds like it makes the most sense, people can send me an email and I will include kind of all of the emails together And then we can kind of start, a next meeting or talking about the access point, like you said.
That sounds great to me. I would like to be explicit about, I don't want to be in front. I would very much be in like sort of like a advocacy supporting coaching role. That's really where I see myself, because I don't have the deep knowledge of Marcy community that you do, having young people that go there, right? So I have a more of like a residual connection. And so yeah, so that's kind of where I see how I would factor into some of this. I'm happy to be invited. I will show up as much as I possibly can. And I would also love to meet more in person, as that allows to feel more of a connection in person too. That's how I operate. But yes, I would very much like to be invited and support as much as I can.
Well, I personally found it very helpful, your distinct and very well done of distilling all of the everything that we just kind of threw at you into some very concrete avenues. That was incredibly helpful.
Thank you, Claire.
Yeah, I was just going to add before that, I appreciate how you're holding the tension that's apparent, and that we can think about our intent, but that we also need to recognize what the impact is. And so, yeah, just appreciate your facilitation of that.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here, Roy.
Yeah. Thank you, Emmy.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they would like to share in the large group right now before we end the meeting? And I put my email in the chat if anybody wants to connect otherwise. Roy, would it be okay if I put your email in the chat too?
Yeah,
or...
please
okay.
do. Yeah. Claire, do you just want me to do it? Oh, there you go. Okay.
Sorry,
No, you're good.
All right. I'm not hearing or seeing any other comments or anything like that. And so with that, I would like to give a final thank you, Roy. We so appreciate you taking the time and energy to be with us this evening. And we will be in touch.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you everyone for coming.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Claire.